All right, everybody, we're joined by head coach Pat Noonan. Coach, if you just want to start with your thoughts on tonight's 1-0 win.
Yeah, one of our best wins, if I'm being honest. Just the circumstances and, some bodies that were obviously missing from last week challenged us. We're obviously stretched thin, but it clearly didn't affect the group because they were ready to play and kept a clean sheet, created some good looks. I think had good discipline, good composure, and deserved to win the game. I'm really, really proud of the performance tonight.
We'll start here with Jeff.
Coach, congratulations on the win tonight.
Thank you.
First of all, there were a few players that had shown up on the injury report as questionable tonight that didn't see the pitch. Did the weather play any factor in those judgment calls?
No, the only maybe game time decision was Yuya. He worked his way back, but was still, a little bit, I don't want to say tight, but there was concerns, and so we didn't want to take a risk tonight. Outside of that, everybody else picked up a knock in the Nashville game and hopefully are available for DC.
And also, it seemed like there was a lot of attempts on goal tonight, 19 by my count. It felt like do you feel like there were maybe some more meat on the bone, that there were some opportunities left out on the pitch?
Of course. I think we had a couple really good sequences that led to us getting into the box with, good space to attack. And we missed a couple passes that I think put some guys in a really good position to finish off a play. I still think our wide service and the creativity we have when we get our wing backs or attackers in positions in wider areas needs some work. I think we miss too many moments where we don't get the ball in a better area. But if we create looks like that more consistently, I'll be okay with what's to come. But that's kind of where we're at right now. I think that last bit of edge and final decision, little composure moments where we just looked a little bit rushed is what's keeping us from, I think, scoring some really good goals. But it's not a lack of effort. We see that the guys are working in a good way. We need to look beyond that and say, how do we get better? And that final third play is, another piece that needs to improve. So I don't want to harp too much on the opportunities missed, because the one was enough, because we defended really well tonight as a group.
We'll go to Patrick here.
You guys did it on a cold, rainy night in Cincy. The physicality that, Kevin, Brian, and then Sergio coming on, what does that do to kind of settle things when, the ball is it's moving so slick here, and you kind of have to deprogram some of, the game plan of what you're trying to do?
Despite the conditions, the rain, I thought the field played really well. Of course, it was, playing fast at times, but I thought we had good control. It didn't affect our guys in a negative way where you look at a bunch of plays and say this is weather-related. So, you mentioned Kevin. His hold-up play was outstanding tonight. That's the best we've seen from him, and that's something we've challenged him with, because it's going to create more moments for us to attack, which we talked about, and get him into better positions to finish off some plays, which he was in some really good spots tonight, and it wasn't meant to be with the goals or assists, but if we can get that level of ball security and get our midfielders, get our team moving up the field and able to support when he's playing with his back to goal, certainly it helps our team, but it's going to help Kevin get in the right positions to finish plays off.
We'll go here to Carter. Go here to Carter.
Coach, congratulations.
Thank you.
While the weather, you mentioned, played whatever role it did, it was a shorter bench, especially with those stars out. Was there a conversation with some of the guys about what may change with their role or what they're asked to do with the bench being a little bit shorter? And how do you think they responded to that?
Guys always need to be ready. If you have awareness, you can see that we're thin, and if you're a reserve on a night like tonight and you're engaged in seeing how the game plays out, you're thinking about ways to come in and impact it. And I thought the reserves did a really good job. Alvis is on the left side because I liked how things were going, and I didn't want to be shuffling a lot of pieces. We didn't want to be shuffling a lot of pieces around, so comes in and does a good job. We moved Corey back for a portion of it, and I thought he did good as a left, wing back, if you will, but pressing as a winger. So, Dotto and Steph come on at the end of the game, and Dotto's playing left wing, and Steph's playing as, a more natural position, but needs to help us out in a different way defensively. And so they were thrown in there in a moment where the team needed them to defend the right way, to help us organize, and then kill off the game when we didn't need to go to goal. And those little details matter. And so I think those guys did a good job. I forget who the last sub is that's eluding me, but we did a good job. Who was it?
Sergio did.
Sergio, the guy who scored the goal. So clearly he did his part in helping us score the goal, but hopefully we get good news back. I think he was dealing with some tightness that wasn't going away, so we'll see where that's at tomorrow.
Could I ask you to elaborate on Sergio? It seems like when he came in, it really impacted the way you guys could play, especially playing forward. What was it that he was able to do so successfully that ended up earning that goal?
He's always the threat to stretch the game, and I liked our shape, but when he comes into the game, it's different than when Corey's playing in that position. So, at times I wanted him to be able to come into space where maybe he opens Kevin in a different way, but now he can almost be like a second forward and play a little bit higher along the line to stretch the game. And when, the outside back was releasing to our wing back, that's where he could be a threat and move us up the field. And I thought he did a good job of that. It's just trying to do it in a more controlled way sometimes where you can see the fatigue sets in because he's so powerful and wants to impact every attacking sequence. And that we need to just have a balance with. So, like I said, he did his part in scoring the goal, but he also did his part in being able to stretch the field.
We'll go back to Jose.
Buenas noches, profe. Felicidades por el triunfo. A pesar que hubieron varios cambios en el 11 titular, se saca el triunfo y se ubica en los primeros 5 lugares.
Coach, with a number of absences in the starting 11 tonight, you were still able to get the win and climb in the table. How important is that at this point in the season?
Yeah, these types of wins, for your group, they go a long way because you get contributions from guys that maybe hadn't had the opportunity before, and they're on the field experiencing a win when that final whistle blows. So that's important for, certain individuals, but then you can hear Matt and Sergio and guys that are now off the field at the end of the game and how they recognize the importance of a win like we saw tonight. So, 2 good results in a row. I would say 1.5 good performances, but hopefully we can build on it. We've talked a lot about being consistent, and we need to see more of the performances like we saw tonight moving forward if we want to continue to evolve and improve and have competition across the board with this group. So good win for everybody involved.
We'll go to Gus here.
Coach, good evening. Shout out to the fans, right? Always supporting the club. 22,000 people with the rain, with the cold. 10th anniversary of the club since the USL days up to now. What's the message to those fans that they're always supporting the club? Yeah,
I sat down in my seat before the game and I looked at the Bailey and I was like, that's pretty impressive to see how full it was and the energy they have on a night like tonight. And not just the Bailey, the stadium had life, and that's not easy. This is, one of those nights where it's easy to say, okay, this isn't the weather for me. I'm going to stay home. And that was important for our team tonight because I think that at certain moments certainly lifted our group because it could have been a lot quieter than it was, for stretches of the game. So Bailey was outstanding. The crowd was outstanding. And, they certainly played a part in tonight's result.
We'll go here in the front and then back to Carter to end it.
Hey, Coach. We saw a sidelight of Matt Miazga on the bench. How important is his return, and what's the plan for Matt? Is he gonna be doing the same as Nick Hoglin?
Yeah, it was good to see Matt on the bench tonight and just a part of the game day roster. He had a really good week and passed some hurdles that, had him feeling comfortable and us feeling comfortable, where tonight if we needed him in an emergency situation, maybe for 5 or 10 minutes, we felt we could do that. So as far as how we progress him, it won't be like for like with Nick because it's different injuries. They're on a different timeline and have had a different return to play. And so we'll see how he, gets through next week and decide on, when the right time is to build his minutes. But it's nice to have him back in the mix.
And we'll wrap up here with a pair from Carter.
Pat, it seemed like Brian Anunga was everywhere, especially I think there were moments where you had him pressing the highest man pressing on the field. Could you talk a little bit about his performance and how you guys utilized him?
Brian was excellent tonight. Brian was excellent. He was all over. Defensively, the challenge he was going to have was how, Carlos was floating in behind him. There was going to be moments where, he had to do two things. He had to be ready to step high and hopefully we had the communication behind to be able to deal with Carlos's positioning. And he had times where he had to, drop off a little bit, and it wasn't going to be a moment where he could release. And read the game well, broke up a bunch of plays. He was all over. And then I think with the ball, had a strong game, connecting the right passes at the right time. So probably his best performance, with our group.
And then could you share a little bit about the sweater you're wearing tonight in the organization?
Of course. Autism Awareness Month. And this is the gear that you see myself wearing, some of the staff members during the week was courtesy of Stepping Stones Foundation and coordinated with or by the Arena family. They did an excellent job all week. So, that's what the attire is. And so I know we have a link on the website and chances for donations and people to volunteer. So if you have an interest in that, check out the website. But, the Arena family did a really good job, and thanks to Stepping Stones.
Pat, thank you very much.
Thank you.